Welcome to the Burn Boot Camp podcast, guys. I am pumped because we have a special guest. This is Chad Lubben. This is going to be a podcast kind of out of the mainstream of what we usually do. Yes, this is the Burn Boot Camp podcast, and we really talk about fitness, but I really wanted to bring Chad on because there's a lot of parallels in what he does for a living and what I do for a living. So I'm a fitness guy. Chad is a financial guy. There's a lot of parallels in the way you be disciplined and what you put in is what you get out. So I really want to bring Chad on and really talk through his story, what he's been through, how he succeeded in his life, where he's at now, and then hopefully you guys take away some nuggets he will provide for you today from a financial perspective, because your physical health is one, but your financial health is like 1A and 1B.
That's right.
Hopefully you guys get something out of Chad, because he's been doing this for a long time and he's failed, he succeeded. And if you're listening to this now where you might take something from Chad, that will be positive for you moving forward. So that's Chad, right. Thank you for being here. Chad Lubben is the senior loan officer at the Lubben Group, and he just started a startup, which we'll get to. I'll name that here in a little bit. But just talk to us about your upbringing, how you got into the financial space, and things like that.
Yeah. So I grew up in Iowa, went to the University of Iowa, athlete, baseball player, student, just kind of like any normal college kid, right? Big Ten school, Midwest.
Yes.
Had a good upbringing, but was never taught about money, right? Mm-hmm. I think, our parents of the 70s, I was born in 77, grew up in the 80s and 90s. It was kind of taboo and hush-hush to talk about money. You didn't talk about religion, you didn't talk about money, and you didn't talk about politics, right? Yeah. And now that's all anyone talks about, right? So, those lessons just weren't taught to me. We grew up what some people might call poor. I'd call lower middle class. Okay. I just was never taught those lessons, not even in college. They don't teach a budget in college, right?
Not if you're not going to be an accountant.
Yeah, so I consider myself, had a great upbringing, loving parents, but not taught about money, wasn't taught about it in school. And you could liken me to an NBA basketball player that got a huge contract. No, I wasn't making millions, but in my mind, I thought I was. And my finances spun out of control because I thought, coming out of college, I was making $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year, kind of my first couple years in business. And to me, that was a lot of money, right? Yeah. And I'm sure to those NBA players that haven't had money before, that's a ton of money. But what do we know about a lot of their stories?
See all those stories of they burn through quick and they're out of money quick.
Yeah, so it was coming in pretty good, but it was going out way faster, right? And I wasn't tracking really any of it. So I had a great income. My career looked good. I had the nice car. I had the nice condo. I had the bottle service, right? I had all the things that looked nice in the early 2000s, right? But like a lot of us, the financial crisis hit and I wasn't tracking anything. And then a lot went wrong in my life.
Yep. So we're going to get into your 6 steps to financial freedom. And I would, if you guys are listening to this, if you're driving, don't do this. But if you're sitting down, I would take out a pad of paper and we're going to walk through the steps that this is real life experience how you got here. These 6 steps. So if you could just walk through the 6 steps for somebody who might be in your position now that you were back in the 2000s, where they think everything's good, but one thing happens macroeconomically and shit hits the fan. What can they do now to be prepared for really anything that gets thrown in their life that they're not prepared for?
Yeah, that's awesome. So what I'll talk about is, hey, what should I have done, right? And what I believe in, which are called the 6 steps financial freedom. What should I have done? What did I not do? Where did it get me? And how did I turn it around? Would that be okay to kind of follow that format?
That'd be great.
So 6 steps to financial freedom. Number 1, you got to track everything. Right now, people automate things right now. People think online banking's okay. Hey, I can pull up. There's youneedabudget.com. I really like that one the best. There's Rocket Money, all of our banking apps like QuickBooks. We all have all this automation, right? But the problem with automation is people set it, forget it. They have the data, but they don't analyze and look at the data, right? So number 1, you got to track everything and track your finances, money in, money out. Cool. So that's the first step. If you don't do that, the rest of them aren't possible, right?
And from my perspective, that's the same thing with like the fitness side for like food.
Yeah.
Like if you're wondering why you're gaining weight and you're not tracking in how much you're eating,
Yeah.
and you're not tracking how much you expend, like that's going to add up and you're going to gain weight.
That's right.
So it's really the same side of the money side as well.
Yeah, it's like the people on keto that eat everything
fat.
nonstop, right? And then they're like, "Hey, why ain't I losing weight?"
Yeah.
Well, it's still calories.
Yeah, you
right?
got to track it.
So it's very similar to tracking your reps, tracking your progress on your weight going up, tracking your progress on time that you're getting your workouts done. It's very, very similar. That's what I like about the parallels of our business. Number two, you got to try and be consumer debt free, right? So I was rolling up the credit cards. I was making a lot of money. I wasn't paying attention to how much interest I was paying on those. I was all commissioned employee, and there'd be months that I couldn't pay the full credit card bill, right? And I'm talking, I was spending $15,000, $20,000 a month, right? As a single man in my 20s.
That can add up quick.
Right? That can add up quick. And especially now with inflation, some of these credit cards, guys, are 26, 28%. And if you're making the minimum payment, it's not like 2 years ago, because the interest rates on them have doubled. So you're getting yourself into a bad spot if you're building up credit card debt. And right now our country has the most credit card debt it's ever had. So we went from the lowest credit card debt we've ever had as a country in 2020, and now 3 years later have the most we've ever had, all within 3 years.
And I would challenge you guys listening, like, do you know what your interest rate is for your credit card?
Yeah.
Like, do you know it? If not, I would go check that right now, because I would guess the majority of people can't say for a certain what it is.
Yeah,
so I would check that out.
It cracks me up because I'm a mortgage lender and I'm doing a lot of cash out refinances right now. People that own homes have made a ton of money in their equity.
Yep.
Real estate values have went up tremendously. And they won't refinance their 3% interest rate because they're like, oh, no, I'm not refinancing that. And I'm like, hey, bro, your overall interest rate on all your debts, like 12%, because you have all this credit card debt and all these higher debts. So that low mortgage rate isn't doing anything for you.
So I got a question on credit cards. I remember seeing something on Instagram of the guy who got made the movie Catch Me If You Can. With Leo DiCaprio. I forget the guy's real name, but I was listening. I think he was presenting in front of a college course, and he was talking about always use credit cards, never use debit cards.
Yeah.
Talking about, hey, use someone else's money, don't use your own. So are you still a fan of credit cards, but you just got to make sure that you don't allow that credit to balloon up, not pay it off in a timely manner?
So I'm going to bring this back to fitness and health, right? Can the obese person have donuts and Oreos in their house?
Probably not. Yeah.
Right? If you're a spender and you're not tracking and you're just rolling credit cards, probably not. You shouldn't have them, right?
Yeah.
And you should just keep it to a debit. Or I used, I'll tell you about how much debt I got in a second, but I used an envelope system with cash. And when the money was gone, it was gone. I couldn't spend anymore.
That was your little trick.
That was my discipline trick.
Okay.
Right. So I think it depends on the person and their disciplines. Now that I have this system and I paid off all the debt that I had, I'm very disciplined.
Okay.
So I can put everything on a credit card. I can be fiscally responsible with it. I can take advantage of the miles, right? I can not have to worry about a debit card or a cash envelope system like I had. People are probably like, God, how old is this guy, right? But
you got experience.
I'm disciplined with it. So yes, I can. The disciplined spender can, the undisciplined spender cannot, in my opinion. And if you have a lot of debt to pay off, I believe all those credit cards should go away. Maybe keep one, take down the credit limit, and force yourself how much you can spend a month by decreasing your credit limit.
I was also, I'm sure you know who Dave Ramsey is.
Yeah.
Right. So one of his big rules is if you have a lot of credit card debt, pay the smallest one off first, get some momentum. Because I think a lot of people look at a big credit card bill and they think, oh, how am I going to tackle this whole thing?
Right.
Or if you have multiple credit cards, he always says, pay off the smallest one first, gain momentum about the process of paying one off, and then you'll get into the next one, and the next one, and the next one as well.
I think Dave Ramsey's one of the best financial minds and the one of the most well-known, right? I agree with about 85%.
It's like those small wins. It's the same thing with fitness, right?
But it's exactly how I started. It was not the biggest credit card, which was over $100,000 that I had in debt. It was the smallest one first, and those small victories. Pay it off, cut it up, close the account, moved on to the next.
Oh, cool. So that's step 2.
That's step 2. You got to be consumer debt free, and I'll teach you how to do that in a second. Step 3, build a survival account once you've paid off that debt.
Okay.
Right.
What's
so
that?
a survival account is I'll give you a budget and I'll give away that anybody that follows me on Instagram or follows me on Facebook, and I'll give my email. You can get a copy of the budget that I use.
Okay.
And for all your listeners, I'll do a free class that they can come to, and just anyone that needs help with their finances, I'll answer questions. But you got to build a survival account. A survival account is your monthly overhead, right? So Burn Boot Camp has great gyms and great locations, right?
Overhead comes with that.
There's a cost with each Burn Boot Camp, right? So your all's membership needs to pay for the staff and everything there. And then anything left over is the profit to that franchise owner, right? It's the same with your personal finances, right? You got to pay your expenses first. That's your overhead. That's your survival account. So think of it like this. You lose your job tomorrow. What do you have to pay?
Your rent, your mortgage,
food, utilities, right? They're going to shut them off, right? So that's your survival number. You'd get rid of the country club membership, right? Don't ever get rid of your Burn Boot Camp membership, though. That's vital. That's
you
survival,
guys heard him, right? You guys heard him right there.
But though you got to see what those things are. My business, due to interest rates, is down 200% this year, right? Over our average the last 4 years, right? So there's been some things I've had to cut. The non-essential things. So building a survival account is, let's say you spend $7,500 a month. That's your survival number. I believe you should have 3 months.
That's what I was going to ask you is what's the total amount and how many months did you have saved? To make
3 months of
3
your
months.
monthly expenses in a liquid saving account up to 6. Right. So 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses should be in a savings account. I don't believe in any amount above that in a savings account, because you're not drawing a good enough return to keep up with inflation. So your money's actually being devalued while it sits in a savings account.
So I recently moved. So Apple came out with their savings account, right? And they're like, it's backed by Goldman Sachs, and they have a high rate of like 4.15. Like, what's the best savings account out there for the biggest bang for your buck? If you're going to put money somewhere, what are some of the best savings accounts for people out there?
Well, right now it's like 2-month treasury notes, because they're paying 7-8%. Right. So if you can tie up your money for 2 months, it's that.
Do that.
I always think Capital One has a very competitive return on their savings accounts. I like the Apple. That's what I use. I love Apple products. I want to support them.
It's simple too. You can do it all on your phone.
And it's backed by Goldman. Goldman's a strong name. So I like those three. But build a survival account, have 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses.
That's great. Step 4.
Maximize your retirement accounts.
That's
and if you notice this, guys, these things are a progression, right? You're not going to hear this and be able to do all 6, a lot of you. That's okay. It's a progression. So if you have debt, start tracking it, right? Once you track it, then you can work on paying it off, right? Become consumer debt free. Once that's done, then step 3 is build your savings account. Build 3 to 6 months in monthly expenses. Once you've done that, then you work to maximize your retirement accounts. Self-employed people have what's called a self-employed pension plan. It's about $55,000. I can't recall the 2024 number. It just went up. Call it $56,000 that self-employed people can put away in a pension plan. Right. Those with a 401k, it's about $24,000 for 2024. And then we move on to the Roth IRAs, which are, I believe, $7,500. I should have checked the 2024. You can Google them quick. But just do everything you can to maximize your tax deductible, tax sheltered retirement.
That's
accounts.
what I want to hit on. Is I think a majority of people, I mean, even me, if I didn't go to business school, I wouldn't know what a Roth IRA is, or how to set myself up for success when I retire. If you do the work now and get the benefit later, could you just walk through what a Roth IRA is, and then be with a company that can match, that has a good match.
Yep.
For you in every paycheck, and make sure you opt into that.
Yeah, so there's 3 main retirement accounts. I'm going to keep self-employed people out of it right now. You'll do the SEP. That's a self-employed pension plan. That's the Mac Daddy of them all. Self-employed people always get the best benefits because they're given the most risk to our country, right? So people that stimulate and create a lot of jobs probably deserve the best benefits, and that's what they get. Those of us that are wage earners or W-2 employees that have a job where someone pays them, you have a 401k. You want to take advantage of that first because most, not all, but most employers match or give you some sort of free money. Take advantage of that.
Take it.
Right? Take their money. Your money goes in pre-tax. That means you're not taxed on the money. You are taxed on the money when you take it out in retirement. But remember, when you're in retirement, your income's going to be down.
Yes.
So that's going to be your only income. It's better while you're making money to put money away tax-free, in my opinion.
Did you guys hear that, young people? I know we got Caleb behind this camera. He's in his 20s. I didn't know this when I was in my 20s. A lot of young people are probably trying to figure out what they want to do for their life or career-wise, but one of your questions when you go into an employer, they're asking you questions in your interview. That's one of the questions I would be asking the employer is, tell me about your IRA or how to set me up for success. It's tax-free money.
That's tax-free money.
It's tax-free.
So I like that better than the Roths because the Roths are you're taxed on the money and then you put it in.
Yeah.
Right? You're not taxed on it in retirement.
So the opposite, really kind of the opposite of
that's right.
401k.
So do both if you can, right? There's income limits. Talk to a financial advisor. Research this information. There are tricky ways to do what's called a backdoor Roth, where you roll over your 401k into a Roth. That's a little bit of a tax shelter, so you never get taxed on the money. I've pulled that off a few times. That's, I believe next year that little loophole is being closed or voted on again. So take advantage of that if you move jobs. Check with your advisor to see if you can do a backdoor Roth. But that step 4 is maximize your retirement accounts. I don't believe in buying individual stocks, crypto, ETFs, mutual funds until you've maxed out the free money, the tax-free opportunities.
And I was going to ask you, how young should you start saving for retirement? But you're probably going to say
as soon as possible. Yeah. Rule for putting money into retirement or in the stock money, don't put money in you're going to need in the next 5 years. That's why you need that survival number first, because the money's going to go up and down. Right. If you had money in crypto, guess what? It got killed until about the last month or so. Right. So it's been on a rally, but before that, it's been crushed all year. So anyone that's needed that money and then in these 5 years has been very disappointed they made that investment.
Yep. Okay. So that's step 4, retirement. Last 2 steps. Step 5, talk us through that.
Invest in the market. That's stocks. Right. So once you've taken advantage of your retirement accounts and max those out, you can buy some individual stocks.
And what are some indicators that you'd be looking for to make sure a stock is stable? It's a good bet over a long period of time.
So with my retirement accounts, I'm not an advisor. Don't take this as financial advice. This is just what I do. I have no licenses. So no, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a mortgage lender that has just become very successful and wealthy by investing. So I'm probably a good voice to hear this from because I don't have all the licensing minutia that in compliance departments that comes with all of this. So I like with my retirement accounts, I only put the money in the S&P 500.
Okay.
It's our 500 best
biggest
stocks, right? If you look back since the Great Depression, it averages about 8.5%. That's a great return. If I get that over time, I'm super duper happy.
It's playing the long game.
That's playing the long
game. The long game. I think, especially, in my generation and younger, we always want something right away. But you really got to just, hey, you're not going anywhere.
That's right.
Like, just play the long game. Get to the stocks in the S&P 500 in 30, 40 years from now, you'll reap the benefits.
That's right. So I do that in all my retirement accounts. When it comes to investing in the market, take away the retirement accounts out of this equation. But let's say we have a pile of money, it's 100%. Right? I'm going to assign percentages of that money in the market. Right? So I like about 70% of that money in index funds.
Okay. What's an index fund?
An index fund is a mutual fund that in the clearinghouse will go and they'll invest in the stocks for you. So they'll build a portfolio of stocks that kicks off a return.
Okay.
Right. I once again use the S&P 500 index. So 70% of my money in the stock market after retirement accounts is once again in the S&P 500 index.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So about 70% of my money is in index funds. Of that 70%, 50% of it is in the S&P 500. Okay. 25% in the QQQ. That is in an Invesco account that gives you exposure to technology.
Okay.
Technology is volatile, so it goes up and down, right? And then the other 25% is in what's called the VTWO. That's a mid-cap and small-cap fund. So you get some exposure to middle to smaller companies.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Once again, volatility.
Right.
Over time, that's going to pay off.
Yeah.
So I was a little unclear on that again. So if 70% of my money in the stock market goes into index funds, if we break out that 70%, 50% QQQ, 25% VTWO, 25% QQQ, 25% VTWO, 50% S&P.
Okay. I like that.
So that's 70% of the money in the stock market. 20%, I use the Warren Buffett method. I
was just going to bring that up.
That is invest in companies you know, like, and trust.
Yep.
So we've both talked about Apple. My iPhone's right there, right? My
Coca-Cola.
Companies you know, like, and trust and believe in, right? So if you use their product and you like them, if you got an Apple phone and an Apple laptop and an iPad and AirPods, you should probably get some of that money back, right?
Well, I wish I bought Monster about 8 years ago because I love Monster now, and that stock is crazy.
Yeah, I have 3 little girls at home. Everything's Disney princesses. We'll go to Disney World. I should get some of that money back, right?
Yep.
My wife has an Amazon box out front every day, so I might as well get some of that money back through Amazon.
Usually more than one time a day.
Yeah, that's right. So companies like that, right? Okay. NVIDIA has been a great stock for me. I've believed in their chips. I used to play computer games. They're kind of cutting edge on computer games. Yeah. That stock's done great. So things that you use, trust, and you know.
Okay.
I like that. And then so we're 70% index funds. We're 20% Warren Buffett method of about 5 to 10 blue chip stocks that you like, big names. And then I gamble with the remaining 10%.
Take a chance on something.
Yeah, some speculative stocks that I believe in. Some companies that I think are disruptors that could change the way we do things. You've probably heard a lot about AI right now. I'm in a lot of AI stocks for that 10% gamble. Yeah. The companies could go out of business or they could be the next Amazon or Apple, right? So I take a little bit of risk in that area.
Cool. And then the last step, how are we going to close the loop here?
To close the loop by starting to pay off your mortgage. Notice that is last. A lot of people get this wrong, in my opinion. So
are you a proponent of, there's people out there, I'm thinking of like Grant Cardone, who's always like, never buy, always rent. So are you a proponent of, hey, obviously if mortgage rates are low, obviously buy in, but now, I mean, they're what, 7-8% right now? So what would you say to somebody that's thinking about buying or somebody that recently bought in this environment?
I think you should buy if you are stable in that area. Okay. And you know you're going to live there. Yeah. Like we moved from Chicago to here in Cornelius, North Carolina, right? We didn't know for sure that we would like it here. I didn't know how stable my job was, right? Well, the job wasn't very stable because I left it, right? But we ended up loving it here. Now we bought, it's turned out really well. It was in 2019. Our property has doubled. Right. It turned out great. Yep. Unbelievable rate of return. Yep. I could sell it now for double of what I bought it for. Yep. But if I would have left within a year, because that job didn't work out in its first year. And if we wouldn't have liked the area, it was right when COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, right when it hit, the real estate market was shaky. Yeah. So I could have been in some trouble there. Yeah. So I think it would have been okay for us to rent our first year here, make sure we like it, get ourselves stable. Now, that doesn't help me as a mortgage lender. That actually hurts my business. You'll say almost everyone in real estate will tell you to buy every time. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Right? There are benefits of renting. You can not have to pay any maintenance. It's not your problem. I think you have to be comfortable with the area. You have to be comfortable with your finances. You have to be comfortable with your job. And gosh, I mean, I've made millions of dollars in real estate, right? But it has to be the right thing, and it has to be right for you.
And that's what I've been trying to figure out for myself personally, because I've been renting my whole life. I'm just waiting for that right time.
Right.
I'm almost there, but I do feel like if whatever first house I'm going to buy, I want to stay in it for a long time, like you talked about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's hard to tell. I will tell you, I've never lost money on a property in real estate. Now, there's been some properties I've had to hold on to. I've had to rent out. I've had to deal with some maintenance and some things I didn't love. But if you have the long game on any good investment in any real estate, I believe you'll make money.
That's great. So you guys heard those 6 steps, and hopefully you guys have been writing these things down. What I do want to get to is the startup that you just recently begun, the coaching and consulting company.
Yeah.
What does that consulting and coaching company provide? Is it all financial people giving you more advice personally?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that.
It's for mortgage lenders and real estate agents. By next year, we plan to grow that into all entrepreneurs and any sales professionals. So that is our vision. We will be having events, but yeah, it's, I'll tell you where I came from and where all this came from. And I hope it inspires somebody, that might be listening to this and, hey, I'll never get there. I'll tell you where I'm at, and let me tell you where I came from first. So in 2007, I had my own mortgage company. I lost it. I had a partner in 2008 embezzle $190,000 from me and not pay our taxes. He was the financial side. I was $110,000 in debt. I also had my own debt. And by the time I looked and started, I said, track everything, right? I wasn't tracking anything. And I knew I had it, but I didn't know how much. I buried my head in the sand about it. I knew it was a problem, but I just kept on with my lifestyle, right? And I turned around, I had $330,000 of debt.
That probably hit you hard.
I had a failed mortgage company because of the financial crisis, right? I had an addictive personality. I had dabbled in drugs, and that got worse after I figured out how bad my life was getting. I didn't have Christ. I didn't have love in my life. I had a girl that was cheating on me and funding it with a stolen credit card in my name. So very ugly times, very dark times. I hit rock bottom. I actually attempted suicide in January 18th, 2010. It was the 8-year anniversary from when my father had passed away. And it was just because all these things hit me all at the same time. Right. And they could have been prevented. So luckily, there was an interaction by God. I always say, hey, I found Christ, I found coaching, I found fitness, and I found my beautiful wife, Kristen, all within 90 days. I surrendered my life to Christ. Right after that, he intervened. Somehow my sleeping bulldog came down and saw what I was doing, and it was just me and her, and she snapped me to it. I started going to church the next day, got into NA, cured up my addictions, found a mentor on my finances, found coaching, found Christ, and found Kristen, my beautiful wife. So I was at the lowest point that you could be at. I hit rock bottom. I got serious about my finances. I got back into fitness. I started going to church. I got help for my addictions. I've been clean now for 12 years.
Congratulations.
And I started this coaching company because I want to help people and inspire people that you can hit rock bottom. I have $6 million in the bank now. That's not meant to brag or impress you. It's to impress upon you. You can hit low points and still do great things in your life. And I just want to help people that's maybe going through that. Avoid the mistakes I made. And if they're through that, help them get through it. And I just believe I'm a living testimony that if you track everything, if you get disciplined, if you surrender to your faith, to your God, to your family, that great things can happen after a traumatic time.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Where can they find you? If they want to find you on Instagram, just talk about where, if they want to reach out to you, and if they have questions, let them know.
Yeah. Gosh, we will do, I'll get you a date and we will do a Zoom call. What's the best way that they can hit you up from the podcast?
You guys can leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment. You can also send DMs to our Burn Boot Camp Instagram page.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So just DM the Burn Boot Camp Instagram page. I will, depending on demand, I'll set up a call, get you all on, and just help any of you with your finances, show you how I run a budget, give you my budget. My name's Chad Lubben. Once again, you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Chad Lubben. You can follow B Coaching and Consulting on Instagram. You can go to our website, gobegreat.com.
Okay.
You guys have inspired us to do a podcast, so we're starting a Go Be Great podcast.
That's awesome.
And man, I just got to say to end, Devin and Morgan, who started Burn Boot Camp, have just become near and dear friends. Devin has inspired me to start my coaching company, to franchise it and help other owners, as you guys have. Devin and I are close friends, and you guys are just so lucky to have a leader like that. That's a thought leader, inspirational, does it to help people. He's inspired me to do the same, and I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at with this startup without Burn Boot Camp and Devin's help.
I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that. Guys, hopefully you guys learned something. I learned some things. Hopefully you did as well. Again, we might have Chad back on and go deeper on financial, maybe questions you guys can leave us in the comments. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, guys, leave us a review, share this with people. And again, find Chad on Instagram, hit him up. He's more than welcome to ask or answer any questions you guys may have. And thank you for listening. I'm going to have you take us out. All I'm going to have you do is say 2 claps on 2, 1, 2.
2 claps on 2, 1, 2.
Bye, guys.